Let's go live to my colleague, Chief News anchor Kieran Gilbert, who's sitting down with the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese.
Tom, thanks very much. Prime Minister, thank you for your time.
Good to be with you, Kieran.
The leaders of two peak Jewish groups have written to you and the opposition leader urging you to preference each other above the Greens, given their repugnant position on the Middle East. Would you consider that?
Well, of course, preferences will be done by the organisation, but I make this point, or a few points here. One is the only reason why the Greens are in the Queensland Parliament is because the LNP chose to put them there, to give them preferences. My objective, of course, is to lead on an ongoing basis a majority Labor government. That is what we will do. In the LNP in Queensland, in the election that's underway at the moment, talking of giving preferences to one nation above the Labor Party. I find that extraordinary, and it contradicts something that began under John Howard of putting one nation last.
You said it's a matter for the party, and it is, but it's also a matter for moral leadership, isn't it? Would you consider doing that, and also in terms of the preferences, but also in terms of the minority government? If we do end up in that situation, would you rule out bringing the Greens in any way, given what you yourself believe their views on the Middle East are repugnant? They're accusing you of being complicit in genocide.
Oh, absolutely. I ruled that out. I'm the only candidate for Prime Minister seeking a government in our own right. And there'll be no deals with the Greens. I want a majority Labor government. And the best way that that can be achieved is by people voting Labor in the election when it's held, unlike the coalition that seem to have, they of course are a coalition themselves with the Liberals and the Nationals, often having different objectives, and they seem to have written off a range of the seats that they've held historically, don't seem to be even campaigning in them or trying to appeal to voters in those seats.
But given your view of the Greens, and you believe that many of their views are repugnant, how do you accept preferences from them in that sense?
Well, I don't accept preferences. People go into polling booths and put numbers next to names. So the preference allocation, of course, will be done by the organisational wing. I make it very clear, as occurred when I was Deputy Prime Minister in 2013 under Kevin Rudd, that there were no deals done, and that was a minority parliament. No deals done in 2013, and I certainly am seeking to be Prime Minister, governing in my own right.
You'd like people to put them last, though?
With a majority.
Greens?
I want people to vote one Labor. There is something called One Nation, whose views on race are pretty repugnant as well.
OK, you've called for a ceasefire in Lebanon. The US State Department overnight said that Israeli incursions to degrade Hezbollah infrastructure, that the US supports that. Do you?
Oh, look, I support Israel's right to defend itself. We've done that from the very beginning, but I also, along with all of the G7 nations, including the United States, including we were a part of the statement of 13 countries, the United States, Australia, Canada, Japan, the European Union, as well as Saudi Arabia and the UAE, we have said that there needs to be a de-escalation. They called for a ceasefire in order to have peace in that Israeli-Lebanon border, and they called for the implementation of the UN Security Council resolution that was carried on that.
So is it a ceasefire, just to clarify, or do you support the US position now to allow Israelis to go in and degrade Hezbollah?
We have always supported the same position as the United States have put, Kieran. The United States have consistently said that there needs to be an agreement. And there were negotiations with Israel and Hezbollah prior to the current escalation. And you need a de-escalation in order to have a diplomatic solution. If you don't say that that's the case, Kieran, are you saying that this conflict should just continue to escalate ad infinitum with no end.
But can Israel go in now? Do you support them
States-
going in to degrade Hezbollah now? Because
We
to defend
support-
themselves,
we
they've got to
support
push them back,
We
don't they?
support Israel's right to defend itself, and how it defends itself matters. So we have always said that from the very beginning, from October 8. I said that on the Insiders program, and we did that in the resolution that was carried in the Parliament that I moved just yesterday.
Is that contradictory, though?
No, it's not contradictory.
To say you're going to support them, push back Hezbollah,
Kieran,
but you want to
that's
ceasefire.
not contradictory. It's the same position that the G7 countries have had. It's the same position that everyone, in terms of world leaders, it's the same position that Keir Starmer in the UK have said, that President Biden in the United States has said, that all of our allies and partners who we work with have said that they want a de-escalation of this conflict, that they want a ceasefire that enables Israel to continue to exist with security. Now, Israel is taking this action because there isn't security there. And when people fire on Israel, Israel has a right to defend itself.